See, the blood in the Nile was such a thing that should have opened Pharaoh's eyes and said, wait a minute. I asked the question, who is this Lord? And he should have gone and run to a mirror and look at himself and begin to deal with the hardness of his heart as the God of the Hebrews, the God of Moses and Aaron, is now exposing himself through his powers. But that didn't happen. But you know who should have also seen that? Moses and Aaron. That's why the church can be a very detrimental place. When we walk into the church and said, you know, I am really in with God and I am really living for God and I am fine with God. I bought my ticket and boy, you know, when the trumpet call is made, I'm out of here and all that. At the same time, you know very little of who God really is. You know, like one time a friend said to me, buying a ticket to the last Yankee game, where it's either make it or die, he said, does not make you own the Yankee team. I never understood that concept. See, many a times because we've come to Christ and we've said, yes, Lord, I believe, and yes, I will participate in your church, and yes, I'm going to live for you until the day you call us out of this place, and we are so satisfied with that. Can I say to you very kindly, as I say to my own self, I say to Peter Valji, God wants you to know Him. We are tuned people who wants the benefits without the one who gives us those benefits. We care less about the one who gives us the benefits. We just want the benefits. You see, and there's a great danger when a church, when believers have that kind of attitude. Here, we see God's judgment on the waters. What happens? Verse 19. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your staff, stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the rivers, their canals, their ponds, their pools of water, so that they can become blood, and they shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even the vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. Do you realize what God was saying to Pharaoh and to Moses and to Aaron? I can squash all the Egyptians. I can destroy them completely. If I can take one of the most needed resources for life, that is water, and I can turn it into basically poison, because you can't drink blood. The fish were dying. The smell was horrendous. So instead of bringing judgment right to the face of the Egyptian, God is giving them time to answer the question, who is the Lord? And Moses is beginning to realize, oh my. He's saying, God, forgive me to have lined you up with a pantheon of Egyptian gods, thinking you're just one of the gods. That's why the text emphasizes the Lord, the capital L-O-R-D, the Yahweh. And it is for the goodness of Moses and Aaron, and it is the goodness of you and I as we come to the text. Let me just finish this message quickly. So verses 20 to 22, God's miracle matched. There's always somebody out there. Verse 20, Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded. And please take note again, Moses and Aaron did as the Lord, capital L-O-R-D, commanded. In the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of all his servants, he lifted up the staff and struck the water in the Nile, and all the water in the Nile turned into blood. And the fish in the Nile died, and the Nile stank, so the Egyptians could not drink water from the Nile. There was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. This is my favorite part. But the magicians of Egypt did not, but the Egyptians of Egypt, verse 22, did the same by their secret arts. So Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he would not listen to them as the Lord had said. Now, think about it. Everything is turned into blood. I need something that's going to turn the water, the blood into water so I can drink, I can bathe. So the fish, my favorite Friday food, is not destroyed. What do the magician do? They turn whatever was left into blood. How good is that? You see, sometimes God will allow us to display our little power. And almost at this juncture, I had to stop and laugh. It's like God is toying. He is playing with these sorcerers in Egypt. And he's also toying with Pharaoh. Pharaoh's question, who is the Lord? Well, I'll show you who is the Lord. Yes, let your magicians show you their power, and they turn water into blood. And what does it say? And Pharaoh hardened his heart. His heart remained hardened, so he would not listen to them. And then we see defiance and suffering, verses 23 to 25. Pharaoh turned and went into his house and did not take even this to heart. And all the Egyptians dug along the Nile for water to drink, for they could not drink the water of the Nile. 7 full days passed after the Lord had struck the Nile. Defiance will lead to great suffering. So you see, people, a pastor can be defiant to God's truth, and he'll do nothing but bring suffering on God's people. A church can be defiant to God's truth. Let's have everything. That church is having bingo and all that nowadays. And it's a nice way to raise money. And if this pastor suggests that, please, that's the day you should bring a gun to the church. Because God is faithful to his work, to his word, and to his people. So, before I end this message, let me just ask you, has God failed you? Has God failed his people? What about the rejection of the Jews? It's starting all over again, all over the world. The Jews are feeling persecution. And not only the Jews, but the church. If you read the statistics of how many Christians are dying because they are following Jesus Christ, you'll begin to say, God, where are you? Remember, Moses had said that, God, you have failed. But has God really failed? You see, choosing obedience over our desire. What was Moses' desire? Lord, look, choose somebody else. I'm not good at talking. Look, I was there once. I don't want to go back there. It's not my cup of tea. I'm just content now. I tried to do what I could do. It didn't work out, so I'm a failure. Leave me alone. You see, what's interesting is, many a times when difficult days come upon us, and if you're a Christian, you look to God, and deep in the mind of your psyche, you're saying, God, are you there? Basically, there's a nice little voice saying, God failed you, isn't he? God failed you, isn't he? When Jesus cried on the cross of Calvary, my God, why have you forsaken me? The world looked at it and said, aha! You see, the Pharisees laughed at him. The people that cheered and said, look, he could raise, but he cannot save himself. If they had only known, if they had only understood. And so here we see water turned into blood and the magician playing their own game. Would you allow me just to use an illustration talking about power? And just want to do this very quickly. One illustration about power, one about servant. Remember, my concentration today was to show you and work with the text in showing you how God is now tuning Moses, just not to represent him before Pharaoh, but he's turning him into a servant. This is why the text keeps saying, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. In a seminary missions class, Herbert Jackson told how, as new missionary, he was assigned a car that would not start without a push. After pondering his problem, he devised a plan. He went to school near his home, got permission to take some children out of the class, and he had them push his car off. As he made his round, he would either park on a hill or leave the engine running. He used this ingenious procedure for 2 years. Imagine. Health forced the Jackson family to leave, and a new missionary came to that station. When Jackson proudly began to explain his arrangements, getting the car started, the new man began looking under the hood. Before the explanation was complete, the new missionary interrupted, "Why, Dr. Jackson, I believe the only trouble is a loose cable." He gave the cable a twist, stepped into the car, pushed the switch, and to Jackson's astonishment, the engine roared to life. For 2 years, needless trouble had become routine. The power was there all the time. Only a loose connection kept Jackson from putting that power to work. J.B. Phillips paraphrases Ephesians chapter 1, verses 19 to 20. How tremendous is the power available to us who believe in God when we make firm our connection with God, His life, and the power to flow through us. Let me use one illustration about servant. In 1972, NASA launched an exploratory space probe Pioneer 10. According to Leon Jaroff, in time, the satellite's primary mission was to reach Jupiter, photograph the planet and its moons, and beam data to Earth about Jupiter's magnetic field, radiation belts, and atmosphere. Scientists regarded this as a bold plan, and at that time, no Earth satellite had ever gone before Mars, and they feared the asteroid belt might destroy the satellite before it reached its target. But Pioneer 10 accomplished its mission and much, much more. Swinging past the giant planet in November 1973, Jupiter's immense gravity hurled Pioneer 10 at a higher rate of speed toward the edge of the solar system. At 1 billion miles from the Sun, Pioneer 10 passed Saturn. At some 2 billion miles, it hurtled past Uranus, Neptune at nearly 3 billion miles, Pluto at almost 4 billion miles. By 1997, 25 years after its launch, Pioneer 10 was more than 6 billion miles from the Sun. And despite that immense distance, Pioneer 10 continued to beam back radio signals to scientists on Earth. Perhaps the most remarkable, writes Jaroff, those signals emanate from an 8-watt transmitter which radiates about as much power as a bedroom nightlight and takes more than 9 hours to reach Earth. The little satellite that could not be qualified to do what it did. Engineers designed Pioneer 10 with a useful life of just 3 years, but it kept going and going and going. By simple longevity, its tiny 8-watt transmitter radio accomplished more than anyone thought possible.